Hello, podcast family. Hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome back to another episode of Design Break Podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Rourke, and we're rolling right into the fourth episode of our transformative series on how communication can make or break your freelancing business. If you've been keeping pace with us, you'll know that we've already delved deep into the art of first impressions, the impact of transparency, and how these elements can sculpt the character of your client relationship. Yet the narrative of effective communication is far from over. This is episode 4, and we have 2 more after this one. So before we dive in, let's go ahead and do a little bit of a hot topic. So today's hot topic is the right tool for the right job. Why your choice in communication platform can be a deal maker or a deal breaker. So a lot of times, and this is actually interesting because we're kind of changing things up in today's episode where we have the hot topic kind of go along with today's episode. But a lot of times clients like to control the avenues of communication. I've had many times where clients want you to kind of like be enveloped in their organization. They want to give you a company email. They want to you to use all of their communication platforms. And so it can be something that can either be very strenuous, especially for you, or it could be actually a deal breaker overall. I've had many clients where I have had a company email. I try to limit that to only specific clients. For instance, I have a client right now who just signed a 1-year contract with me. They gave me a company email so I could be involved in their Google Docs and things like that. Totally fine. Completely open to doing that. But about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, I had a client that wanted me to be completely engrossed in their company, gave me a company email, made me use Microsoft Teams, which is the worst. Oh my God, the absolute worst communication tool, in my opinion. And they wanted me to really be more of an employee for them rather than being a contractor, freelancer, or a design studio partner. And honestly, I worked with them for a few months, but the overall feeling, the overall partnership wasn't really there. It was very hard for me, and it was very hard for them because we were in completely 2 different spheres or completely 2 different directions that we wanted to go, and ultimately we ended up parting ways. Now we created some great stuff along the way, but it always had a sour taste in my mouth because of that communication. So it's not just about being a deal maker, deal breaker with the client, but also with you as well. So you got to figure out, what you're open to doing, what you're not open to doing. From now on, that experience taught me I do not want to be that engrossed into a company unless we have a long-standing relationship that we have been working together for a good period of time, or at least we have a contract for a long period of time. So that's today's hot topic. Let's jump into the listener of the week. So the listener of the week is Rico Smith at Rico Smith _ on Twitter. Thank you so much, Rico, for engaging with us on Twitter. I'm not sure if you are a follower of the account, but the fact that you were engaging with us early last week, thank you so much. Hopefully now you are a listener and you are surprised by today's announcement that you're the listener of the week. But yeah, thank you so much. And if you all would like to become a listener of the week, all you have to do is engage with us on Twitter, engage with us on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Yes, that's right. We're starting to post more stuff on TikTok and Instagram. So definitely be on the lookout for that. It's at The Design Break and also at Rocky Rourke. We're still trying to figure out how we want to do the accounts on these types of platforms, but ultimately you'll be able to find us in one of those two. All right. But without further ado, let's jump back into today's topic. So picture this. You've navigated that initial email. Your client has bought into your transparent approach, and now you're both eager to keep the momentum going. But which tools should you choose for your communication? How do you decide between sending an email or Slack message, scheduling a Zoom meeting, or shooting a quick Loom video? The choices that you make at this juncture during the entire process of your client relationship, of the project, of the entire engagement, are very pivotal and very important. So in today's episode, we're going to be turning the spotlight onto the actual tools that help you maintain that coveted open line of communication with your clients. We'll break down the pros and cons of various platforms, from emails and messaging apps to video conferencing and specialized tools. Each has its own unique strengths, and knowing when to use them can be a game changer in how effective you communicate. Now, this is something we talked briefly about in the last episode, but this episode, we're going to dive even deeper into this. So whether you're a veteran freelancer or someone who's just beginning to carve out your space in the design industry, stay with us. This episode is geared to arm you with a particular knowledge of picking the right tools to enhance your client communication strategy. Ready to get connected and elevate your freelance communication game? Then let's dive in. The first thing we're going to talk about is the array of tools at your disposal. Now, we talked briefly about this in the last episode, so you can kind of think of this as a rehash, but the first tool that every freelancer has in their arsenal is email. It is formal, it is widely accepted across all countries, all industries, all types of clients, all the different types of interactions. It's good for long form content, meaning very long, in-depth messages. It provides an official record of communication. This is something that you can go back to, you can point to this specific date, and it doesn't disappear. No matter what, there is a record of it as long as you don't delete your emails. So it's something that is very, very important. So the bottom line here is that it's ideal for formal communication, initial introductions, and long discussions that required a detailed record. It's something that, often you never want to start a communication you never want to start a more detailed conversation with a potential client over a DM, right? Or some sort of instant message or text message or something like that. You want to have it all in record or on the record through email. It's very important. It's one of the oldest forms of communication that we're going to talk about, I believe, today. But it's honestly something that is still relevant today. So the next thing that we have here is messaging apps. Slack, WhatsApp, Discord, HipChat was another one. I don't even know if it's still around or not. Maybe it is. But there's so many messaging apps out there that a lot of clients tend to use. My favorite form of messaging app is Slack. That's what we use at Blue Cyclops. It's what we use for communicating with the team for Design Break. It's one of my favorite. And the best part of it is that we can add clients directly to our Slack. So that way we can keep the communication going, and we don't have to necessarily be added directly to their Slack, costing them money or us being charged money for being a part of it. So it's a really, really powerful tool. One of the things I hate is Teams. Teams is probably, or Microsoft Teams, let me rephrase that. Microsoft Teams is probably the one that I hate the most when it comes to communication, just because it was so archaic. It didn't feel like it was modernized for this time period. It felt like it was 10 years back in when it was supposed to be used. It is weird when I used it with that one client I mentioned earlier in the episode. But Slack is by far my favorite. If you are a freelancer out there and you do not have a messaging app set up, get Slack. I think it's $8 a month. That's all you have to pay for you, or $8.50 or whatever it is. And it's a very powerful tool, and you can be added to your client Slack. A lot of them actually go through and use Slack. It's one of the most powerful tools overall. But basically, it's quick and casual. It's easy to sort conversations by topic, so you can create different channels depending on it. If you have a team of freelancers that you're working with, you can set up different channels for each individual client or each individual engagement. There's so much that you can do with it. You can include multiple parties very easily. So like I said, you can connect your clients to your Slack. You can connect other freelancers to your Slack and things like that. You can create a community. We actually have a community. We mentioned this in an earlier episode with Brian Burkett and Josh Wayne. I believe it was episode 44 or 43, where they were guests on the podcast. We have a special Slack channel called Hustle Muscle. It's where a bunch of freelancers and solopreneurs come together, and we kind of talk. We share knowledge, we share questions and different things like that. Honestly, it's a lot of fun to be a part of those communities, and so you don't have to be necessarily in your own silo. But the bottom line is that it's best for ongoing day-to-day communications that need quick responses, but not necessarily a detailed log. Mind you, I still send detailed messages. It's the formatting of it is not the best, but I do send detailed messages to my clients and everything, but sometimes I also will do them in Google Docs. All right, so the next one is video conferencing. So basically you have your Zoom, you have your Google Hangouts, you have your Skype. I don't think many people use Skype anymore for it, but mostly the big two is Zoom and Google Hangouts, or Google Meetups, or whatever it's called now. I still call it Google Hangouts. They are by far the best way to enable face-to-face interactions with your clients. Sometimes we'll be on a call with clients and nobody has their camera on. It's just all showing names or your little avatars and things like that. But it's a way for you to communicate, work through things. The best part of it is the fact that you can actually present things to your clients. You can share your screen, share a window, share a program, and they can actually go and work in there together. One thing that a lot of freelancers or a lot of designers are sometimes against is actually getting into a design file and working with a client to fix some sort of issue. I'm not, about that. I actually love doing that. In fact, I have a client I think it's every 2 weeks, whenever we have a project that really needs attention, we will wait to work on it until that call every 2 weeks, and we'll go and work in the file together. We'll figure things out. Sometimes the call will go a couple hours, but we're able to figure things out so much quicker by being in that meeting together, working through it, working in the design file. And sometimes the clients are like, I don't know how you even did that. That was so quick. So it's very important. It's good for detailed explanations, and it's very useful for, like I said, client presentations or presenting things to clients. But the bottom line is, opt for video conferencing when nonverbal cues are important and for in-depth conversations that may require demonstrations or presentations. It's very easy on a video call to say, hey, let's jump into that file and just take a look, or hey, let's review that PDF or something like that. It's very easy to do. The next one is Loom. So this is something that, again, I've been using it for maybe 3 years, maybe close to 4 years. And it's something that is very, very important in not only my business, but also just my workflow. I can't even remember how many times a day I actually jump in and record either a quick 30-second Loom video, or sometimes a full, I think the largest one I ever did was 25-minute Loom video walking through something with a client. And so it's something that's so easy to use. It allows for, an asynchronous communication, meaning that you're able to communicate directly to them. But one of the best parts is the fact that it allows you to do a detailed walkthrough. So I don't even like doing presentations on live video anymore. I prefer to do them in Loom, where I can record the full presentation for them, share with them everything that we've done, share with them all the little touch points, all the little pieces. It's full of ums, and it's full of and things like that, or like weird fillers and everything. That's perfectly fine. The best part about Loom is that it's quick and convenient. You're able to share it with a client, and then they're able to share it with all of the stakeholders. No need for 50 meetings, to go over something. I had a client not too long ago where we had 7 meetings over the course of 2 months, where we were basically just going through and rehashing the same thing to different groups within the organization. And I constantly asked them, why don't we do a Loom video for this? It wasn't until after the 7th call that I said it once again, please, can we do a Loom video so that we don't have to do this anymore? And they finally agreed to it. I went back and looked the other day, and that video now has 60 views. I think it's one of my most viewed Loom videos. But you can see how many more meetings would that have been? That probably would have been at least 8, maybe even 10 meetings. And so it's an amazing, amazing tool, especially for detailed visual walkthroughs. So the bottom line here is choose Loom when you need to give a detailed visual explanation that the recipient can view at their own convenience and share with other people within their organization. So some additional tools to consider is project management software. So you have Asana and Trello and things like that for tracking projects and tasks. I personally prefer 100% Notion. It's so easy to use. It's easy to tailor to your needs. And the best part is it's very cheap. I think it's $5 or $10 per for the main user account. And then you can have so many guests that you can add on. So if you have other clients or if you have freelancers that work with you, they can be added to it as well. I even pay a little bit extra for their AI feature, which really helps out as well. Other things too are calendar apps. So you have, of course, Google Calendar for just setting up meetings and everything, but you also have Calendly, which allows you to schedule meetings and allow your clients and other people to pick specific times. Now, I've had Calendly multiple times over the course of my career. I do not have it right now. I probably will get it in the future because I feel like it's perfect for sending cold emails. I can send them a Calendly link and they can then choose a time to meet and chat. But I think it's very important to have something along those lines, especially if you are in the at the point in your freelance journey or your design career where you are looking for more clients and you are doing a lot of outreach. Having a Calendly link allows them to easily select a time for you to chat versus having to go back and forth over multiple emails or multiple messages. So I think it might be something I might be picking up very soon. The next one here in the additional tools is cloud storage. And so this is something I think I probably pay $100 a month for cloud storage. You have like things like Google Drive, Dropbox. There's other bits of these type of file sharing and archival apps. We use Google Drive and we use Dropbox, and we have, I believe, an extra amount of space that we pay for Google Drive. But then we also have, I think, somewhere around the lines of 15 terabytes with Dropbox. Now, do we use all that? No, but we definitely use, I think, over 5 terabytes worth of space. And that's from, we archive all of our client work that we've done all the way back to, I think, 2016, I think I have backed up. I have all of the YouTube videos and podcast episodes. All of those things are backed up on Dropbox, as well as on hard drives. Like I have, for instance, right here, I have a quick little Samsung hard drive thing. If it will focus, it doesn't want to focus right now, but I have this Samsung hard drive. I have other hard drives laying around, and I'm constantly putting files both on these drives and then also up in the cloud because it's good to have things in multiple locations. And then finally, the last thing that we're going to talk about is AI. So AI note-taking apps in particular, we started using fireflies.ai. We're currently testing it out. I generally, with any new software or app, I give it a 3-month, like 90-day period to test it out. We'll pay for it. We'll pay whatever it costs just to see if it's the right fit for us. Right now, I think we're probably at like the 30-day mark for fireflies.ai. I really like it because it takes a lot of notes and it also creates like action items and planning items and things like that from our meetings that we have both internally and for clients, which is really nice. Some clients, though, they might not be a fan of having like a third-party app recording the conversation. So you have to make sure that you get permission from them to be able to do that. But generally, it works pretty well. The other thing, too, I'll say with AI is, of course, I also use ChatGPT. I use Midjourney for imagery. And I of course, mentioned before, I use Notion AI as well. So I use a lot of different AI tools. Not all of them are about communication, but the big thing with like ChatGPT is that you can go through and let's say you type up an email that you're going to send out, like a cold email or an email to a client that might be very sensitive in nature. You can put it through ChatGPT and you can tell them like, can you make this more formal, or can you make this more informal, or can you make sure that the tone of this is, very happy or elated or something like that. And it really, really helps out. So I would definitely suggest to anyone, before, maybe try that, maybe test at least using ChatGPT for structuring your emails. Don't have it write the emails, but have it clean up your emails, if that makes sense. Okay, so now let's head into the second segment. And this one is actually pretty much a shorter segment than the other one, but this is a guide to choosing the right communication tool. And so this is something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, is they don't talk about, when should you be using certain communication tools and when you shouldn't be. So for instance, with formal versus casual messages, email is probably by far the best formal type of communication tool for those types of interactions, versus messaging apps are very casual and quick. So for instance, if you're sending a very formal email or you're sending, let's say, a contract or a proposal, you probably want to do that through email and make sure that it's very formal, cleaned up, and buttoned up, especially if you're sending it to multiple people like legal or accounting or other stakeholders. It's very important to use that. However, if you're sending things, if you're trying to get like quick feedback from a client, or you want to be very casual and quick about it, then you should use messaging apps like Slack, Discord, things like that. Speed of response needed. This is something that's very important. Again, if you want something fast and immediate, Slack is going to be the best thing. So if, for instance, I need to tell Deanna, my content manager and editor, that, hey, we need to speed up the editing process on episodes 1, 2, and 3 so we can get them out to people sooner, I'm probably going to send that quickly to her right now over Slack. Or if I need to talk to Joel and say, hey, we need to get this cover done for this episode so we can get it up tomorrow, I'm probably going to do it over Slack. I'm not going to send a long email because for the most part, people will react quicker to Slack messages than they will with email. However, with email or Loom, those are perfect instances, specifically email in particular, where if you have a non-urgent matter, Loom or email is probably the best way of doing it. And again, you can combine them with both. So sending a email with a Loom link, having a detailed explanation and things like that. You can also do it too with Loom and Slack as well. If you have something where like, hey, I need you to change this one thing. Here is how I want you to do it. You can do it in Loom very quickly as well. Then we have visual versus text-based information. So this really comes down to things like video conferencing or Looms for visual information, but then you want email or Slack for text-based. Now, the thing that you also have to remember here is just like in the last one, speed of response, you can, convert these and combine these as well. So video conferencing, that is by far the thing that I will do as a last resort when it comes to communication with a client. Unless it's a standing meeting that we have, I will do everything in my power to get out of having a meeting with a client, because a meeting with a client takes up so much more time. You tend to end up talking about so many other things that aren't necessarily relevant to what you're trying to get done. Versus if you send them a Loom video, asking them a question or showing them something, that might be a little bit better, or even a Slack message or an email. Some clients, you're going to probably do 90% of your communication via Slack, and some clients, you're going to do 90% of your communication versus email. And that all comes down to their preference and your preference. So definitely keep that in mind and everything. So record keeping importance. This is another one. Email, like I said in the beginning when we talked about email is the best for official records. Anything like as soon as you send an email, like some organizations even use email in legal disputes and things like that, because it is a perfect record of what you're discussing, what you're talking about. The reason why you would never use Slack as a record or a history is because Slack tends to disappear after a certain amount of time. Some companies have it set up where their Slack automatically scrubs anything older than 15 days or 30 days. I don't tend to do that on mine, but sometimes they will have that built in. And so you have to be very, very careful versus sending an email of record that is there. That's something that you can go back and look at. That's something that you can then go and show them versus being like, I can't find the Slack message. Why can't I find the Slack message where we agreed upon X, Y, and Z? I can go and find that email that I sent them instead. So it's very, very important. The last one that we're going to talk about here is multiple parties involved. So video conferencing for multiple party meetings is great. Slack for multiple party day-to-day conversations is great. The best thing, though, again, I'm gonna harp on Loom here. I'm really going to talk about Loom. Is if you ever have something that needs to be approved by multiple people. In fact, I was just sending off something last week, where I had 3 main stakeholders. They all had to see something. None of them had times on their schedules for meetings. They were all busy. One person was out of the country. So what I do is I went through and recorded a Loom video with detailed information. I even added comments onto the Loom video, adding additional context to it. And then I shared it with them. Within 24 hours, all of them had reviewed it. All of them had either approved it or added some additional comments or feedback. it was the easiest thing because at 2 a.m., I'm getting comments from someone who was in the UK. At 9 a.m., I was getting comments from people on the East Coast. And at 2 p.m., I was getting messages from or comments from people on the West Coast. So it allows them to all do it within their own time, as long as it's not something that's urgent, right? So again, with multiple parties involved, there's so many different ways you can go about it. Loom is a great way to get everybody involved. But again, video conferencing is great, and Slack is even better. I think I probably have like 50 different Slack communications going on at any given time, not just with one individual, but with multiple people, and not necessarily in channels, but actual DMs. So it's very, very important. And there we have it. Another episode of Design Break Podcast is in the books. Today we've dug deep into the toolbox of communication essentials every freelancer should have at their disposal. From the trusty email to the dynamic capabilities of Loom and Slack, we've explored how these tools can make or break your client relationships. We broke down the when, the why, and the how of using each of these tools effectively, emphasizing the importance of your choices on both the flow of your projects and the longevity of your client relationships. So as we wrap up, I invite you to reflect on your communication toolkit. Are you leveraging the right platforms for the right conversations? Could some of the tools that we discussed today be missing pieces in your freelancing communication puzzle? If you found today's episode enlightening, why not share it with someone who could also benefit? Your shares, your comments, your communications, your engagements not only help us grow, but also fuel our commitment to bringing you more quality content. So now let's give a quick little sneak peek into the coming episode next week, episode 5 of this mini series on communication, and that is listening to non-creative feedback. Now, sure, we all love receiving feedback from design savvy peers, but what about clients who don't know a pixel versus a vector? What about the feedback that isn't necessarily about the designs itself, but the process, about communication, about so many different things? And so it's very important that we touch on that. And that's what we're going to be talking about in depth next week on Design Break. So thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode and, for being a invaluable part of this entire ongoing journey that is Design Break. We're excited to continue to deliver actionable insights and strategies to help you break through barriers in your freelance career. Until next time, please remember to stay passionate, stay positive, and stay creative. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much. Bye. Checker thingamabobber. Figure it out right now. You know what to do with this.